Hello, 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 friends, and welcome back to another episode of For the Love of Drag. It is your girl, Astala Vista.
And I'm Jimmy Boone.
And we are going to be your hostesses with the mostesses. Yes.
Astala, it is so nice to be back in the studio. We took a few weeks off from recording. We took last week off from releasing an episode to give everybody a chance to catch up on what we've been doing.
Yes.
But I think we did have something very, very, very exciting in the world, in the news happen. Would you like to include the children in what I'm talking
would.
about?
First of all, I have to say, I have definitely missed recording. That was nice to take a week off, I guess, or 2 weeks off. But I also miss this. This is so much fun.
It is.
Very nice to be back. But yes, obviously, we have had a very exciting announcement in the world. We've got a new presidential candidate. The one, the only Miss, however you want to say it, Kamala. I've heard a little bit of everything, Harris. So she is going to be our new Democratic candidate, and we are very, very excited about that. So
excited.
We decided to make this episode for the love of politics. I feel like it is one thing everybody says you shouldn't be talking about, but we're a drag company, so fuck that. We're going to talk about what we
In today's
want
day
to
and age,
talk
I do
about.
think we do need to talk about it.
Exactly, literally. Yeah, that applies if you're like a teacher or at a crazy, I don't know, but we're going to be talking about politics today, okay?
So we'll definitely get into today's politics a little bit, but I want to backtrack a little bit as we always do and kind of get into some of our first memories of politics and things like that.
Okay.
Do you have any memory of like what your first political memory is? Not necessarily voting, but just maybe as a child.
Even before we go there, let's just say today too, like we are not political experts.
Oh God, no.
This is not going to be an episode where I'm going to be spewing like, well, 1 in 8 House representatives. I don't know that stuff, but I have really good morals as a person, and I will be able to base my vote and my opinions and all that on my guidelines there. So I'm not going to be spitting facts today, but I am going to be telling you how I feel.
I'm glad you said that because social studies and like world cultures and all that stuff was never my strong suit by any means, and I've educated myself a lot more than I used to be, but I am no expert by any means. But I do recall some of my first memories of politics in general. I guess it's more of a scandal than it is politics, was the whole Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky situation.
Okay.
Are you old enough to remember that?
I remember it like gracing my ears when I was younger, but I don't really remember like knowing what happened. I just remember there was a thing. What year did that happen? Was it like very early 90s?
No, it was not the early 90s. I want to say it was like 96-ish, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I was like 4 or 5 years old, so like I heard about it, but I didn't really know too much.
And so I don't know. I at the time I didn't know exactly what happened. I just knew. I think my parents told me that Bill Clinton kissed a woman that wasn't his wife, Hillary Clinton at that time.
Okay.
And that was the like 8-year-old explanation that I got. But obviously it was
Just
all
a little smoochette.
It was all.
And he was just eliminated from the office.
But it was all on the news. They talked about him being impeached, whatever that ended up meaning. I don't even know because he was still president after that. But that is my first like memory of politics or any kind of like political anything like that. I also remember in school going to like the state capitol and stuff like that. Did you do any of that stuff with your schools?
I did the Liberty Bell movement.
Okay.
But that was about it. I mean, that was really the only like political field trip I remember going on.
Have you ever gone to the White House or Washington, D.C.?
I've never been to D.C. No, none of that. I mean, I definitely do want to go to D.C.
Sure.
That is on the list. I hear D.C. is a great day trip, especially with how close we live. People say they go, they have a great time, stay for the weekend. But no, my earliest memory of politics, I would say, think it was 3rd grade. No, I think it was 4th grade, actually. It was the Gore and Bush.
Okay. Yep.
Right? That like that sounds about right about that
99,
time.
2000 or something like that.
And I remember like in school, we literally got to like pick a side and like there was like we did a coloring thing with like the red and blue. Like there's a whole thing. Like
do like debates maybe, right?
Maybe that like there was
Later
stuff there was stuff that went along with it. And that was my earliest memory of politics, like being in the 4th grade classroom and like we all got to pick a side. Like we didn't know what we were doing. We were just whatever. I probably was a Republican in 4th grade. I don't know.
Who knows? I just found out I think that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He founded the Republican Party. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Judging by like today's Republicans, I wouldn't assume that Honest Abe would be necessarily the founder of that party.
Literally. Isn't that a gag? You're like, oh,
you find out new things every day. But another thing that I think is very exciting to talk about is our first voting experiences. Do you remember your first voting experience?
I do. Okay, so I think my first voting experience was the second Obama run. I was not able to vote the first time.
2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I was not able to vote the first time. And I'll be honest, when I voted just because, like, I don't know, being queer, like you just,
Yeah.
like this is where we need
You
this.
feel it.
You feel it. So but I didn't believe in it, if that makes sense. It was just very like, this vote doesn't really count. There's electoral colleges. Like, does
agree to that. That's true.
and yeah, literally. So like, I was just very like, none of this matters, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously, the older I've gotten, the more I do understand things. I understand it's more than just that one election, and you have to get a little bit more involved in those other elections. In the meantime,
interim ones or whatever.
literally the primaries. Let's use the
ones that are every year.
The primaries, darling. But yeah, and obviously what we do is political in itself. The amount of hate and shit we
become
get
even more political.
for what we do is crazy. But yeah, at that time, I really was just like, this is what it is. I'm doing this because this is like, I'm gay, and I just want to make sure like gay marriage stays a thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think at that time gay marriage wasn't legal, right? That was 2015, if I remember correctly.
yeah, let me think about this.
Yeah.
So I
think it was 6/26/2015, because 626, the bar in North Jersey, is like.
I think you're
named after
100%
that or
right
whatever.
there. There was definitely, was 2006 just New Jersey?
No, I don't know.
No, maybe no. There's no way, because I went to the first gay wedding in Jersey, and that was like 2012ish. So that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, so I don't really remember that. Oh, Evan has a fact check for us.
So in New Jersey, it was 2013.
There we go.
October 21st. I think nationally it was 2015. National.
I think that's when like the
So New Jersey was
Supreme Court people
2013.
couldn't stop it or whatever. I don't know how it works, but yeah.
June 26, 2015.
So that's like no time at all. But yeah,
Not at all.
that was the thing. It was just like watching this transition of being able to get married, or the possibility of being able to get married. I knew that was the only reason I was voting. Like that was I was just like, I just want to be able to get married.
100%. I remember my first election was in 08. I turned 18. April of 08, and then the election was obviously November. So I was actually fortunate enough to be one of the however many millions of votes that actually elected Obama into office. That was very cool. I remember the night of the election. I forget who he even ran against. Like, it doesn't matter at this point. Back then, it wasn't really as bad as it is today. But I remember literally when they announced that he was like officially the winner, like literally crying, because I finally understood like what the significance of that meant for our country. Like I said, I was 18, so that was like the age where you start to realize how fucked up the actual world is, and it's not all these like cookies, cutters, and rainbow stuff that they teach you in elementary school. You find out that like Christopher Columbus was a bad guy, and you shouldn't actually be celebrating him, and everything beyond that. So seeing the like cultural significance in that was amazing. And I also remember just thinking like, I think this is like the first chance we have at gay marriage actually being legal. Like that was incredibly just inspiring at that point in time.
Yeah, and then I believe after that it was Hillary and Trump.
Yeah, so 2012 Obama again, and then in 2016 was Hillary and Trump.
That was the second one I voted in. That one I was just excited to vote in because obviously that was the first time I was like scared. You know what I mean? That was like, holy shit. So I was very scared there, but it was also exciting to like, there could be the first woman in office. Like that's
I don't even know how scared were we. I think we kind of thought it was the whole idea of Trump was like hilarious, and that the whole world was just going to be voting.
No,
for Hillary.
it got like.
But then I think as things.
That's true too, because we were like, oh my god, he's literally making fun of people with disabilities. He's saying
Grab my
this,
pussy.
like all these like, this is not really going to happen. Right? This is kind of crazy. And then I do remember like the night that he did get voted in, just seemed like the most surreal like moment ever.
I remember we stayed up until whatever it was, like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, and then like we were just like, imagine what is going through Hillary Clinton's mind right now. She's just sitting there like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that got real. That got
So
really, really real.
I remember, I think it was the next day or the next week or whatever, we both went to the office and got passports.
Literally got
from the
passports.
county
You're
office
like,
or whatever it
I'm
was. We're like, we don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's going to go down.
We need to make sure that we are good to go. Another thing, just going back in time, I guess. Has there been any kind of memories or anything with you in terms of like your family with politics? I know on my side, there's definitely a lot of Republican people who don't necessarily know what that vote means to somebody like myself or somebody that is a little more marginalized than anybody like that. Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. My dad is very like, he is not here for the political games at all. He's very like right in the middle with everything. He's like, this is crazy, that's crazy. He falls he doesn't really like politics whatsoever. Where my mom is more like on the Trump train because my stepdad's there. So like she's not on it, but she's like, it's easier to just go.
It's almost like a sports team.
It's a sports team to them. It's fully a sports team to them. So other than that, the distant family, it's kind of like scattered a little bit more on my mom's side. I've noticed a little Trumpier, where on my dad's side it does seem to be a little more Democratic. But
I think it's very similar for me. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the Growing Up Gay episode, where it's like the same people that were saying like, oh, that's so gay growing up, are the same people that are kind of like voting for a Republican that will necessarily take away our rights or not further people's rights even further. That's one of those things that I don't think people necessarily understand. How do I say this? A lot of people base their political decision on like one little factor or another little factor. I hear a lot of people talk about like finances or the gas prices going up, and they're like, fucking Biden, the gas prices are up. I'm like, that man has nothing to do with how much
that's the
Exxon
shit
is
that blows
charging.
my mind too. Like they freak out about the gas prices and blame it on this and that. I'm like, what? Like, where is this coming from? Like, first of all, I'm a drag queen. I'm not like rolling in money by any means, but I've never been that concerned when the gas goes 20 or 30 cents.
You're getting gas either way.
I'm like, it's the summer. It went up 50 cents to $1.
As it
that's
always
why,
does.
like,
As
I'm
it
not like,
always does.
well, now here it's the president. Like, that's psychotic behavior right there.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And that unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people in my family that don't focus on the moral things and are more focused on materialistic things or financial things or anything like that. And it's a shame because it's completely distanced me from those people, because it is more than politics. This is not 1996 where you're like not supposed to talk about politics at the grocery store because of whatever. Like,
true.
This is life or death to some people. Like, women's rights have been taken away to the point of like where they can't get an abortion if they have a like life-threatening
I think
pregnancy.
I heard it was like 21 states. There's laws that literally prevent women from getting abortions,
disgusting.
which is, I think, going to really affect this vote in a very good way.
Hopefully,
so,
yes.
like, I have the most faith I've ever had that we are going to be going back in the right direction. I was very, very worried when it was Biden up against Trump. That was I think people were going to vote for Biden, but I don't think as many people are going to come out. It was more of like, well, we got to do what we got to do to not go back 50 years, where now people are excited. There's an excitement. There's a fire lit. We're going to change history. We're going to make shit happen, and shit's going to get done now.
With Biden versus Trump, it felt like we had to pick the lesser of two evils. Either
Literally.
way, we were getting essentially an 80-year-old white guy.
And it was getting cringy. You were watching him stutter up there. It was getting cringy. Like, there was no denying it.
Yep.
Yes, you wanted to obviously support, but like you were supporting a candidate that you knew.
It was hard to get proud.
All these candidates really are, at the end of the day, are just political figureheads. Yep. And like that was
the representations of the people, right?
Exactly.
Especially if you look at
there's
it
so
like
many people behind the scenes that are doing so much
they have
more than,
teams.
and like for that to be the representation was just very like, this is what we got.
The other thing with Biden was how the rest of the world was viewing him, the way that he was speaking, stuttering and everything like that. It doesn't necessarily look like America is in the best hands, so to speak. And fortunately within America, we are very lucky to not have to worry about being bombed or taken over or anything like that. And I would hate for that political figurehead appearing, I don't want to say weak, but not in the best of capabilities to like make that look like America is weak and have some foreign nation or whatever it is feel the ability to attack us.
I 100% agree with you on that. I feel like that's literally what you just said. That's all they are, is a political figurehead. Yeah. And when you're thinking of what should the political figurehead of United States of America be, that should be a well-spoken person that can see both sides, have some compassion, be caring. And we were dealing with one person who you kind of seen was getting a little bit older, and they were stuttering on their words, and you didn't really have that much faith there. You were like, what are they going to be doing? And then you had somebody who was a literal tyrant dictator, and they're saying things where you're like, is this a movie that we're watching right now? So we were pretty much left with like the gum that's on the bottom of your right shoe or the gum that's on the bottom of your left shoe. And
that's an amazing way to put it. And the thing about Trump is, I think anybody can agree that he is an amazing reality television star.
Yes.
And I think he completely treated American politics and elections as a reality television show.
Yep.
I did do a little like digging into like his website and whatnot, and there's literally like a movie that you can buy on like how him and whoever's behind him are like going to save the world, and you can like stream it for $19.99, and it's insane.
He has taken the success that he knew in Hollywood and literally took it and, like you just said, turned it into an American television show where everything has to be grandeur and extra and this and that just to literally get votes. Like the things he's saying are ridiculous, but it's just to get the reactions, just to get the, oh my God. And here we are dealing with it again.
No, it's insane. So I think we're definitely going to get into more of the politics of today, as well as how politics has affected drag. Before we do that, do you mind if we take a little break?
Yes, let's talk drag like Obama. Let's talk drag in each era. Let's do the
eras.
The drag
The
eras,
political
okay?
eras of
'Cause
drag.
I will say I have noticed it's changed like crazy from when we started to now and
Yep.
in between. So yes,
The comments are a litmus test.
I love that. Let's do
Awesome.
that when we get
So
back.
We're going to take a break, and we will be right back. And welcome back to For the Love of Drag Pod. Before we went to break, we were getting ready to discuss the political eras of drag, so to speak, and how drag has changed as different political figures have been in office,
As
so to
the
speak.
presidential eras of drag.
There you go. There you go. So I believe when you started drag, that would have been 2014. Started performing in drag, excuse me. Would have been relatively like 2014. So that would have been like the middle of the second Obama term.
Yes, I think 2014 was when I was officially like going out, doing drag, doing shows constantly. Before that, it was more like at home,
Sure.
going
Posting
to
on social media.
like littler things. But when I started doing drag, it was in the Obama era, and it was a very, very like just accepting, open. I felt like everybody else was just living in my world, like this. Like I was doing my thing. If you didn't like it, turn the other way, and you can go hate on it somewhere else. There wasn't this like hateful vibe. It was just like. It was what it was. If people didn't like it, no, people weren't making comments. Like it was what it was. After that, I think that is when we went into the Trump era of drag, and that is the first time that I started to get like scared to go out. There was a different feeling. There was a different vibe. I felt like I could be hated on. It just wasn't the same anymore. I don't know how else to describe it other than that.
No, I completely agree. We talked about it a little bit before the break, how like the political figureheads are supposed to be these people that hold themselves to a higher standard, that shouldn't necessarily do the like wild and crazy things that the common folk do or whatever, right? So when Trump got into office, him saying things like grab him by the pussy or like any of the other crazy things he did. I remember he like made fun of somebody with special needs or somebody that did like an impersonation or whatever it was. And like those types of things became acceptable. So it's like it's the equivalent if you were like a teacher in school, right? And you were like acting that way, and then the kids are going to act the same way. Not to say that Americans are kids, but like it's the same concept. There was nobody was like telling people that it wasn't okay to act that way. Do you know what I mean? So like
There was a cork, and it went.
boop, yep, of everybody's like hatred and stupidity over the years of things that they couldn't say. Back in the day, like you were saying, it's basically, we always talk about it like sports. Like you and I have no interest in football or sports, and we see NFL ads constantly and Eagles ads and this, that, and the other thing. How much of a waste of our lives would it be if we sat on social media and were like, this is so stupid, why do you do this, blah, 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 you should die, blah, blah, blah. Like that would
For
just...
what?
What does that accomplish?
For
They're
what?
still going to do their thing. They're still going to make their money. They're still going to do whatever. But it's not that... Our opinion doesn't matter. No. Do you know what I mean? Like our opinion
But
does
that
not
Trump
matter.
era is when we started, I think, to notice the most comments, the most like pre that there really wasn't too much hit. People just, if they didn't like a drag show, they just didn't go. Like there was it wasn't political.
Yeah.
It was just drag, and like yes, obviously drag is political, but it wasn't treated as this like drag queens are pedophiles. They are that like it was just like we're not going to the drag show. That's for them, whatever. Now it's just like a drag queen, a drag story time, protesters, this, that, the other thing. Calm down, Mary.
No, as you said, it became a political... Drag became a political thing, like a weapon, a political weapon almost. And I remember we use a lot of social media advertising and stuff like that. And from the 2016 election, Donald Trump's first election, he actually used a lot of social media ads and different things to target specific groups of people to essentially fall in love with him and to think of him as literally, I've heard it described as the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like these people think
he knew how to do all these things from the entertainment industry. I mean, it's literally advertising, marketing. He did the exact same thing that you would do to get a new TV show out to get him as president. Like
everything you just said. So he used these literal marketing techniques to sell himself as a product, sell the Make America Great Again hats and whatever other stupid merchandise. Like, just think about that. You talked about the George Bush and Al Gore election. Do you remember freaking merchandise?
No.
There'd be the yard signs or whatever, like that little, or bumper sticker or whatever. But T-shirts,
let's just
and hats.
talk about it. We went to Seaside the other day,
Oh, good
and
Lord.
it was horrifying. So I could tell you for a fact that Seaside, New Jersey, does not like Biden, Kamala, anybody that is a Democrat in any way. There's not one piece of merch unless you are voting for Trump. If you are voting for Trump, they had baby onesies, babies for Trump, kids for Trump. Trump shirts. What was the one shirt that the kid was wearing? I heart Trump.
I heart
and
Trump.
an Italian flag had the heart though.
And then they make America great again.
I heart
this like 16-year-old kid who doesn't know what the fuck he's even talking
oh
about.
my god! Like you love your political candidate. Like it was almost cringeworthy because you're just like, oh, this like kid doesn't even know what the fuck he's doing. We're like, that's the world we live in right now, where people are literally looking at their political candidate like a god.
It's cringe. Do you remember when we used to do shows in Wildwood before we ended up ending that relationship?
Oh my god!
And those people would literally hold I forget what they're called, like the rallies or whatever they are for Trump. And some of the
margaritas.
Some of the venues literally had cocktail menus that were themed the same way we do at friggin' drag shows. And they would do a margarita called a margarita.
No, that one is a bummer because I grew up going to Wildwood and I loved Wildwood. It has like a nostalgic feeling to me. But once I realized, like, that place is literally just Trumpville, and then in the summer they just get a lot of tourists, and then outside of that, it's right back to Trumpville. I can't look at it the same anymore.
Do you remember people would come to our bingos and whatnot and would wear their Trump shirts?
Would wear MAGA shit to the bingo.
You're in the wrong room, Mary.
Yeah. And honestly, too, and I hate to say it, like some of those were like really nice ladies,
Yes.
like really nice. And I'm like, you're like breaking my heart right
Literally.
now, like
because they would be sweet.
I
to
would
us
talk
in person,
Disney with them,
but like
my
they wouldn't
favorite
understand.
characters.
They just don't get it. It's that thing that you talk about, like people voting against your rights without even realizing it.
Yeah.
But back to what I was talking about with social media and whatnot. So Trump did all that stuff in 2016 to the point where I don't know if it was a legal thing or just a moral thing, whatever it ended up being. I think it was more of a legal thing where Facebook and different social media platforms got sued for the way that he was able to use political ads without it being like marketed specifically as political ads. Back at that point in time, I do a lot with marketing, and back in that time, on Facebook, you used to be able to type in like specific, or you can still do it, but they don't have the drag versions there anymore. But you can type in interests for ads that you're trying to do. So let's say you were doing like a Madonna show and you wanted to try to target people that were into Madonna, right? You could type in Madonna, and then essentially people that interact with Madonna's Facebook page would also be targeted by this ad. Back in the day, you used to be able to type in some of the really popular drag queens like RuPaul. You could type in Michelle Visage, Trixie Mattel, Bob the Drag Queen, all of those types of people. And you'd be able to like use those as interests to target the ads.
Makes sense. You obviously don't want your ads going to Craig, who's into race cars.
And stuff like that. Yep. So I don't exactly know the year, but sometime after the 2016 election, when you would go to type in those options, they just don't appear anymore. Bob the Drag Queen, Trixie Mattel, all these people still have Facebook pages. They still have huge followings. They still have everything. But all of a sudden now you can't use those as targeting options
So drag
for
is
ads.
a political.
So drag became a political thing in the Facebook meta world.
Like we said, drag is political, but they've literally turned it into like, it's like women's rights, drag. Like they've like made it and like drag needs to go to the really low down. Like it's not that serious, guys. Calm down. Like we're just having fun.
It can be a decision that like parents just make on their own, just like if they're taking their kids to an R-rated movie or not. Like it can just be that. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazier than that.
Like do like people protest like when people take kids to R-rated movies? Like is that a thing? Because the
No,
things
but-
I've seen in R-rated movies,
Yeah,
like,
I was like, I remember seeing R-rated movie. I saw Pulp Fiction as a kid.
like
There's
kids are
boobs
allowed
and a
in
kid-
as long as
and
there's a
girl
pair
gets shot
there,
with
right?
adrenaline.
Like
Yeah. So that was crazy. I also remember. Do you remember? I forget if it was. I guess it was Trump's. I don't remember if it was during the election or during Trump's first term. But do you remember that drag queen that like completely themed herself as like a Trump drag queen?
Lady MAGA.
Ugh.
MAGA.
Barf. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Literally. Whatever. Wow, yeah, what a time in drag. So there was a drag queen who just decided that she was a Trump supporter, and her name was Lady MAGA, and I don't know if she was trying to become famous or...
I got the opinion
There
it was
a-
clout more than like her actual views, but who knows?
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, I don't know if that was like a scheme to try to get on Drag Race and be like...
That's a storyline.
I don't know what the deal was, but obviously they were hated by drag queens and Democrats because duh. And then I think their little plan flipped on itself because they were also hated by Republicans because they were a drag queen. So they basically just got to play with themselves.
They
And
had
that
no
was
audience.
it. Yeah.
That I remember that was rough, and I just remember that like going through the drag community and us all being like, "What the fuck?
What
is
is
this bitch
going
doing?"
on?
It is. Ew, it is disgusting.
But let's talk about that too. There are like gays for Trump out there. There is a whole like mess of toxic gays that I don't know if they're just, I really don't know if they're like cut off from society and they live in like Wisconsin, but like there is a whole gays for Trump movement.
No, it's unfortunate but true. I don't know if there's some kind of like financial motivation to that. I'm sure
I mean, maybe these gays are millionaires out there and they have all other motives. I don't know, but I do see these things online where there's real gays for Trump out there.
No, it is absolutely cringe. It's also it is confusing to me. I don't know if maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It is confusing to me that anybody with a vagina not voting for Kamala Harris. Like,
when you see women for Trump, it is a unique. It's a unique choice.
Over the, I don't know, was it past year or whatever, with Roe v. Wade being overturned. And
I even think, though, guys need to be voting for women's rights, too.
No, 100%. It is not just a women's battle.
What if it was like,
but
vasectomies, you need to, like... Do you know white men would lose their mind if you tried to control when they could have a vasectomy? They'd lose their fucking shit.
No, that's 100% true. They don't want to be told what to do by anyone.
That wouldn't even fly in the slightest for a second.
No, not at all.
I feel like even as like two people who don't even want to have kids, it's just, I can compare it to anything else. Like, I don't want you telling me that as a gay person I can't get married. Like, I don't want you in any control of the things that don't affect you in any freaking way. So like that alone is just enough to be like, duh. Like, how could you vote against that as a person, somebody else getting controlled? How could you like apply that to any other situation and you wouldn't be okay with that? So
no, these things are like something that, at least in my opinion, the government shouldn't really have any control over.
Literally.
If one person or one group of people or whatever it is allowed to do this, and let's be honest, everything that the government does or has rules and regulations on, the end result of that is them making some kind of money off of it, some stupid little fee for registration or whatever it is. Why can't they make the fucking money off of me? Why can't I get divorced, goddammit?
Like it should have it should have nothing to do with the government. Religion needs to be like fully pulled out of that. If you're a religious person and you don't like it and that person did whatever, you don't have to like that person anymore. That's totally up to you and your religion and you have fun with that, but that should have nothing to do with the government.
No, and the government shouldn't be the one deciding that. If that's your opinion, that's great for you and your opinion, but that shouldn't affect what
if
this
you don't
person
think
over
that
here is
person's
doing.
going to your heaven anymore or this or that, that is totally okay and that's on you, but that should have nothing to do with the government and that person's choices.
No, I completely agree. The other thing that I haven't really touched on yet, and I'm not by any means an expert on this either, but I've heard enough that scares the fucking shit out of me, is the I think it's like a Republican think tank concept called Project 2025.
Ah, yes. She made her rounds on social media, and I don't think the Republicans were happy about that. I don't think they wanted it to be known how.
No, it's not helping the campaigns by any means.
Yeah, they were trying to go back to 1925. That's what they should have called it. Like,
yeah, so if you haven't heard of it, definitely look it up. It's this like 900-page document that basically brings us back to like, I don't even know, 10s.
Yeah, it's more, like 40s, right?
It's terrible, whatever it is. Like, it basically says that like the only family in America is defined by like a stay-at-home mom with X amount of kids, a working dad. Like, it's insane. It doesn't want people to have Social Security or
the bullet point you can go on for
remove the Department of Education. Like, it's
find a
scary.
really good bullet point list because there's a lot on there.
Yeah, it is. But that just kind of leads us to how we want to wrap this episode up, and that's just literally getting out and voting this November. There's a lot of different resources you can look at. There's a lot of different outlets and places you can go. One of my favorite that was started recently for this election series is an Instagram account and organization called drag.pack. It's actually a lot of the drag race queens joined this organization or created this organization together to raise awareness for voting, getting people to register to vote. They're doing a huge drag show with a small $5 cover, I believe, in Chicago during the Democratic National Convention.
I mean, I was like, hey, if they're doing that, I was like, yeah, you better work. Like, you better do it right during the Republican.
The Republicans shut down Grindr, so
I was like, get it.
But that's something that you should definitely check out. So it's on Instagram. It's drag.pack, PAC, and they're doing amazing things. But if nothing else, in November, get out and vote.
Yeah, it is simple right now. We are going to be making history. Get out and vote. We are going to have the first woman president in the world, and we're all going to do this together, and it's going to be iconic, and we're all going to cry on November 5th, and it's going to be amazing. So get out there and vote, and this November is going to be literally history making.
We have the opportunity to kind of save the world, so to speak.
Yeah, it's happening. I'm putting it out there because this is going to age well, and I can't wait.
There was a time, a month ago, I guess it was only a month ago, where we were not as optimistic.
No, No, not at all. Not at all.
We were still going to do what we were going to do,
Yep.
but the optimism and the faith behind it was not there. by
It
any
goes
means.
back to that, like, we were going to vote, but it was just like, well, we got to do what we got to
were picking
do.
between
And I
lesser
think
of
there was
two
a lot of
evils.
people that were like, I'm not even going to vote. Screw it. I'm just going to. And now those people are like, ooh, this is exciting. I have a reason to do this. So,
there's a person who seems like she's for the people, literally.
I mean, is without a doubt. Like, it's obvious.
Yep, 100%.
I'm excited for the future now. I'm very, very excited for the future because I know it's going to be a bright one.
But that wraps us up for today here at For the Love of Drag podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into our episode today about politics, and we hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hasta la vista for now. And before we go, we'd also like to give an extra special thank you to our close fam sponsors, as well as our Call Me Mother sponsors, Barbara Rambo, Kathy P, and the Drag Fan 27. This month we want to give you an extra special thank you because in addition to supporting the pod, we are going to be donating some of our funds directly to Kamala Harris's campaign. So thank you so much for not just supporting the pod, but also for supporting the most amazing November that we're ever going to have.
I can't wait. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.